really good. That's the week weather-wise right down here.
Is it again?
Oh, yeah, that's the week rain all week next week.
I want to get dirt.
You can get mud.
I'm not going to
The
get
next week.
Yes, I'm going to order it. Anytime to spread it.
Yeah, the next 4 or 5 days, you know how to order Luke.
Good evening. We'll now call meeting into session. The committee will convene an executive session in main office conference room pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 42-46-4 and 5 for the purpose of discussion regarding certified employee job performance pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 42-46-5A1. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Tony.
Tony, my fault. What a busy day. We'll now call the meeting back into order. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. There were no votes taken in executive session. And I'll entertain a motion to seal executive session minutes pursuant to applicable provisions of RIGL 42-46-4 and 5.
Make a motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next item.
Student Liaison, Ty Messier.
Good evening, school committee members, Superintendent Ferrand, Assistant Superintendent Ramsey, and Ms. Corsi. It's a pleasure to be with you all tonight. I'm excited to share some updates from the EPHS community, and as you'll hear, it's a very busy and exciting time of the year. To start, our band students kicked off the month with their spring concert on May 1st, and the chorus had their concert on May 8th. They were both fantastic performances, and they highlighted just how talented and dedicated our musicians are. Last week, we celebrated Teacher Appreciation Week. It was a meaningful opportunity to thank our amazing educators for everything that they do and day in and day out for our students. We have been having our AP tests over the past few weeks. We've done 12 and we have 4 more to go. And looking ahead, we have some big events on our calendar. This Saturday, May 17th, is our junior and senior prom. It's going to be held on Runs of the Patuxent from 6 to 10 p.m. Everyone is looking forward to a fun and memorable night. On May 22nd, we'll be hosting our annual fashion show in the auditorium. It's always a creative and exciting event, and I encourage you all to check it out. And it's officially senior season, and here's what we have coming up for the class of 2025. This Thursday, May 15th, is going to be the CTC Senior Certificate Ceremony, and it's going to be in the auditorium at 6 p.m. On Friday, May 23rd, we'll have the NHS Awards Night starting at 6. Our senior athletic banquet is going to be on May 28th at 6. Seniors are going to have their last day of school on May 30th. Class night is going to take place on June 2nd at 6. The senior cookout is going to follow graduation rehearsals on June 3rd. Senior trip is going to be at Six Flags, and that's going to be on June 5th. And to close it out, we're going to have graduation on June 6th at 6:30 p.m. We're very proud of the class of 2025 and everything they've accomplished. And now on to the spring sports, and I have to say our athletes are doing amazing this season. Baseball is 9-5, and they're playing against Moses Brown tomorrow. Softball is 7-6, and they're playing at Pilgrim. Boys tennis is also 7-6, and they're playing today at Narragansett. Golf has won 7 matches, and they're playing tomorrow at Green Valley Country Club. Boys volleyball is 8-5, and they're playing LaSalle today. Girls lacrosse is undefeated at 12-0, and they're playing tomorrow at home against Ponagansett. Boys lacrosse is 4-5, and they're facing Classical today. And Unified Basketball wrapped up their season with 5 wins. And before I sign off, this is sadly going to be my last school committee meeting with you guys. This summer, I'm going to head off to the University of Central Florida to study aerospace engineering. And although today is a very sad day for us all, I'm happy to announce our next student liaison, Hope Moran. Not only is Hope the new student liaison, she's also the RI DECA president, and she's also the founder of Townie Cares, which is a mental health awareness program at East Providence. And just one last thing, we really do have an amazing group of teachers, administrators, staff members, and students at EPHS, and I want to thank you guys for giving me the amazing opportunity to relay the information from EP to all of you. And are there any questions?
Congratulations, Ty. Thank you for everything that you've done up here. It's
Thank you.
greatly appreciated.
Well, thank you all. I hope you guys have a great rest of your evening and a great summer.
Go.
Can you, Ty, can you stand up back up there? I just
even though we've already said congratulations to you, I do think that we should acknowledge the fact that you were a semifinalist for the Presidential Scholar Program. I know it was all over the internet and stuff, but I think it's only right that we give you another standing ovation here for you. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Next item.
Consent agenda.
I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next item.
PTO, PTA, EPLAC reports.
Next item.
Superintendent's report.
Sorry. I'd like to start with the special education presentation.
Good evening, school committee. Thank you for the opportunity to share the work of the Special Education Advisory Committee for the school year 2024-2025. Just a little background. The district commissioned an audit examining quality and efficiency of special education services between April 2023 and December of 2023. The study consisted of a mixed method review of special education programs, including the review of policies and procedures, documents. There were individual interviews with central office administrators, principals, and EPLAC representatives. It also included staff surveys, parent surveys, focus groups, IEP reviews, and site visits. The final report was issued in December 2023. Next slide, please. Between January and February of 2024, the report was reviewed with the district and the AIR, which is the American Institute for Research, to clarify findings. In March of 2024, an open invitation was issued to the district to discuss the report findings, strengths, and recommendations. Through the spring of 2024, the Special Ed Advisory Committee participated in comprehensive discussions regarding IDEA, LRE, or least restrictive environment, FAPE, or free and appropriate public education, the IEP, with a focused lens of the recommendations and strengths identified through the audit. The 2024 committee work concluded, excuse me, with identifying priorities and the writing of goals to achieve in the 2024-25 school year. The large committee continued its work in the early half of the 24-25 school year, reflecting and providing feedback on the goals established in the previous school year. Based on the feedback, in an obvious response to the priorities, a subcommittee was identified to address these goals and develop a plan for program development. This plan has allowed for constant feedback, drafting, and redrafting, and will be shared with you tonight. Next slide, please. The Special Ed Advisory Committee focused on two major components of the report: strengths to leverage and recommendations. While not listed here, I do want to mention the district strengths that were highlighted. The audit recognized several district strengths that identified an inclusive culture that celebrates diversity, supportive and engaged district leadership committed to excellence for students with disabilities, use of data-driven strategies for decision-making, a full array of services for students with disabilities, a supportive staffing structure, a positive attitude and belief that all students can learn, a collegial staff who values high-quality professional development, committed parents, and infrastructure for translated materials available to non-English speaking parents, and good channels of communication with teachers, staff, and families, fostering a strong community that supports students with disabilities. With these strengths in mind, the committee identified the primary priority recommendations on which to focus. Through a series of committee meetings, recommendations 3, 4, 5, and 7 arose as the most logical and vital starting point. A placement framework, quality inclusion, purposeful collaboration, and MTSS became the center of the conversation for both the full and subcommittee work. What you see here is that while recommendations 3, 4, 5, and 7 are at the heart of the plan, all 10 recommendations have come into focus as a result of the highlighted 4. I'd like to mention that the coloring of this slide is purposeful and planned. Moving from red to green, the green being complete and red not being addressed, as you can see, all 10 recommendations have been addressed and are approaching green. By prioritizing the 4 identified areas, we are able to tie in the remainder of the goals and recommendations. Next slide, please. This is a simple list of all the folks who have been involved in the committee work over the past couple of years. Next slide, please. Influencing factors. In the last several years, we have seen a changing population that includes students with more complex needs entering our school department. In the last 5 years, we have experienced an over 20% increase in the number of students requiring special education and related services. Classroom demands have increased not only in number, but also in complexity. At times, classrooms are overwhelmed with a wide variety of student need. Strong input from teachers, paraprofessionals, related service providers, and parents necessitated that we examine our current classroom structures. Next slide, please. A 4-phase program development plan was formulated, beginning with a first phase small committee to examine in more depth our current structure, challenges associated with the structure, and brainstorming more effective data-driven strategies. The second phase was launched with input from teachers doing the job and built upon phase 1 findings. Phase 3 addressed expansion of the concept, collaboration, and feedback from teachers and administrators, and ensures alignment with district goals. We are currently in phase 4 of the plan. This is the heart of the plan and the place we will see a direct impact on students and teachers. To explain phase 4, I'm going to have my colleagues, Rebecca Vieira and Kelsey Laramie, who is our BCBA, to describe phase 4, because they have been so intricate, so involved in putting the skin on the bones of the ideas and the concepts that have developed over the past year.
Hi, everyone. So as Leslie said, right now we are in stage 4, where we will be further developing these programs, working with our administrators, creating support and training, and establishing a way to maintain and make sure these programs are making progress in helping our students. Next slide, please. So this is just an overview of the proposed elementary expansion. As you can see, we hope to have 6 programs that are in district for our special education students that are really tailored to meet the different needs and, like Leslie says, the really changing population that we're seeing. So each program has a recommended student to staff ratio, student to teacher to paraprofessional ratio, and then in the middle has a inventory score that goes along with it based on an inventory scale.
Next slide, please. So based off of this, the student profile inventory provides a framework in which to place students in any given program that was just reviewed. It's a multi-step process that involves everyone who's important to the child's success at school. So that includes teachers and parents. It involves both interviews and observations of the students, and the results help guide their placement, but final placement decisions are still made by the educational team. Next slide, please. The inventory looks at 6 main categories that are integral to student success in the classroom. Those being behavior, classroom independence, group learning routines, social emotional development, academics, and adaptive skills. Each category has a 1 to 5 rating scale that corresponds with a scoring rubric. Next slide, please.
So this is just an example of what one of these inventories may look like. So I'll give you a minute to look at that. And then you can go to the next slide. Next slide, please. After assigning these inventory scores for each category based on the rubric that's created both by the classroom teacher and someone who's on the team will use the flow chart to make a placement decision. All placements are designed to prioritize a student's needs and strengths. And the final, as Kelsey said, the final decision really is a team decision, which includes, the teachers, the related service, the parent, and, in the upper grades, the students.
So to walk you through it, if you can see on the inventory here, we start with the student in this example's adaptive score, which in this case is a 3. So then we move to their behavior score to the right, which in this case is a 2. So next that would bring us to their academic score, which in this case is also a 2. That would lead us to have a discussion about where the student should be placed. And based on this flowchart, it's likely that that student would be successful with the supports and resources found in a general self-contained classroom. And then all of the other scores, classroom independence, group learning routines, and social emotional needs, are also considered to create individualized supports for the student wherever they ultimately end up. Next slide, please.
So you guys have all received this presentation that Leslie had sent out. On the right of the next 6 of these slides are like an infographic that tells you, more in depth about the program, their curriculum, their inclusion opportunities, their collaboration, their behavior supports, and then a way to track data. We're just going to briefly go over the 6 programs. So the first program is our resource model, which we are currently doing. It provides individualized instruction through small group or support within the general education classroom. It really focuses on academic skill development, confidence building, and social emotional growth. Students receive targeted interventions in behavior as well. Strategies are tailored to support each student and implemented in collaboration with the general educator. Next slide, please. So our general self-contained classroom supports students who need a more structured, smaller class. The classrooms have lower numbers and a higher student-to-teacher ratio. Students receive specialized, individualized instruction and small group support, focusing on academic, social, emotional learning, and self-regulation. The setting is structured to build confidence and independence. And when appropriate, the students will have the opportunity to join their regular education peers, whether it's for learning or for social experiences. And the goal of this program is to really move towards, more inclusive and a least restrictive environment. Next slide, please. Kindergarten Pathways is a specialized kindergarten-only classroom that supports school readiness and helps transition smoothly into the elementary school experience, because we do notice that kids in kindergarten really struggle when they are now put into the elementary school. It focuses on the early academic skills, social emotional development, and classroom independence. K Pathways uses structured routines, individualized instruction, and social emotional strategies to build those readiness skills for the elementary. The goal of K Pathways is to really support students in that early learning development, and to, really figure out what placement from the other options is really best for them. Next slide, please.
The Bridges program is a multidisciplinary classroom for students that benefit from a little more structure than we would see in our typical general self-contained classrooms. This classroom blends tools from applied behavior analysis and other evidence-based strategies in social emotional learning to create a highly structured environment that promotes regulation, social, and behavioral development. This program uses environmental strategies. So, in this program, you would see a lot of visual supports, flexible seating, flexible lighting, and heavy collaboration with specialists and service providers. The goal of this program is to provide a supportive and structured, individualized learning environment where the student can foster their behavior and academic growth and experience inclusion opportunities as they are ready. Next slide, please. The Connections program builds off of the current program at Silver Spring, and it supports students with behavior challenges by focusing on internal regulation, self regulation, and emotional development. This classroom uses evidence based social emotional strategies and curriculum, such as conscious discipline, to help students understand potential triggers to their behavior, recognize their emotions, and apply coping strategies effectively so that they experience less barriers to inclusion opportunities. The goal is to help build that internal regulation and system and promote greater independence. Next slide, please. The Functional Living and Learning program extends off of White Neck's current highly specialized program. This program supports our students with more complex needs. Learning is centered around routines and engagement that promote practical skills. It integrates academic instruction with real world application. So students are able to connect things like math and reading with more functional goals that they will experience in everyday life. The goal is to help students build their skills while learning academic concepts through real life scenarios. Next slide, please. This is the current configuration and the proposed configuration of these programs, and we'll now hand it over to Leslie.
So we'd just like to say that, we have had self-contained classrooms pretty much across the district in all the schools that served one population or another. What the current structure that we are proposing actually enables us to use that student profile inventory and group like students together. That helps us to define best professional development needed for those teachers, to organize and provide supports for those classrooms, and will give us a better view as we have more and more students come in as to what is the best program for that student. It really is what is the best classroom, less than program, okay? Because the focus of each one of those classrooms will have a varying level of support as they move through. So the changes are to Orlo and Francis, where we'll have the Bridges support, general self-contained in Waddington and Kent Heights. Hennessy, we are proposing that the kindergarten pathways classroom go there, and then the 3 to 5 group would be what is in place right now, but we want that to flex. Some years we've needed a grade 2, 3, 4 there, sometimes a 3, 4, 5. Connections remains pretty much untouched, as does the White Neck program remain pretty much untouched. Our resource numbers are fairly low, so we are also proposing that when possible, when feasible, that the resource teachers in those assignments also reach out and work with those general self-contained to allow more access to the typical classroom. So I was at Waddington this morning and gave for the 3 resource teachers that were in the room a little bit of a sneak preview. They were very excited. When we met with the self-contained teachers, and we were still kind of skeletal in terms of what we were proposing, they were all very excited. One of the biggest calls through the audit was for some kind of a flow chart or decision-making tool. The IEP team remains in place as determining what is the least restrictive environment for a student. So the IEP team would continue to determine if a student needs a more restrictive placement, but this student inventory profile will help us in deciding what is the best and most likely classroom that will assist the student in making progress. I think that one of the things that you should know too is how much of the development of this work has come directly from the teachers. They have been involved every step of the way, different groups, and so forth. So I'm very proud of the work that they've done, and we're happy to answer any questions that you might have.
I was just going to ask if we could get quarterly updates possibly on progress,
Absolutely.
please.
Absolutely.
And how often is the data collected on the students? Is that the IEP 504 team doing that, or?
So regarding the student profile inventory, so that would be upon initial entry into the self-contained classroom. And then, we're going to be training more folks on how to use the tool. And they would be able to be using that to see, does the student need a lesser restrictive environment? So, we have to take data quarterly on students. And so it would be in response to the IEP.
And the only other question I had was, is there adequate funding in place for the professional development you had mentioned? I just want to make sure that you have the resources you need to implement this program.
I'm hoping that I can say yes to that. Dr. Fran has been very supportive of the entire process.
Through the chair. I know this has been a long time coming, and because I can remember sitting here years and years and years and years ago and asking for what each school's going to look like, what each school offers for students. So I am so grateful that this has been done, and I look forward to sharing this publicly as soon as possible, because I think parents should know what is available at each elementary school.
Jessica, just so that you know, I've asked to be on the agenda for the
Yes.
next EPLAC meeting so that we can make that presentation to the parents who attend. I'd also like to comment that just to allay any fears is that we only have a very, very small handful of students that are probably going to need to change schools. We tried to do that in such a way that it wouldn't cause issues. We have about 9, but 5 of those 9, that was already the plan through the IEP process. So we were looking for something different for those students. So there's a very small handful that, we're going to have to say, sorry, you're going to need to leave school, to change schools. So we tried to not impact
I
that.
think parents will understand if their child is getting the best quality education based on the programs that are
Correct.
implemented here.
Yep.
On that note, I was going to ask that question. So when you do the student profile inventory, are we going to be doing that with current students, or so all students that are currently?
Well, our biggest focus right now, because we have a small this is really a tool that is homegrown here. Okay. In fact, at one of the meetings, one of the teachers said, "You guys need to package this because it's so well done." And so we did focus on the pre-Ks coming up to K, because that became one of the most difficult groups to address. Pre-K to K, it's a different animal. They're in full day. It's a lot. It's a lot, and it's a very different requirement in K than in pre-K. That's play-based and so forth. And then they're coming into kindergarten, we're asking them to sit on a rug, raise their hand, and follow all these rituals and routines. And you're not always prepared for that, because we haven't tried it with that individual student. The other thing that's very, very challenging is the students that come in through the summer, and our enrollment doesn't settle usually until sometime in November. So we get a quite a number of students that we don't know who they are. We have 13 students that are coming in that have never been part of the East Providence School Department that are currently participating in private clinics. And they might come in the day before school, register, and say, "Oh, guess what? We're here." But there are complex and extraordinary needs that we hadn't planned for. So we've reached out to all the clinics that are here in East Providence and the ones that we know to say, hey, can you, help us facilitate this? Kelsey's also worked with the clinics to have them begin kind of like setting up sort of a kindergarten classroom in the clinic so that they can begin to teach and work with students so that they have a little bit of a routine and a taste of what a kindergarten classroom might look like.
So, what happens if, and I'm hoping it hasn't happened, but it's happened in the couple of past years where we've had to close a classroom because we didn't have enough students for that particular classroom, or if the classroom becomes like you have a self-contained classroom at Waddington that has way too many children, but yet they fit in that place and that's where they should be. What is the situation there? Like with the new classrooms, is
That will definitely be one of the challenges. And so we're going to have to just ongoing be cognizant of the students coming in.
all right, I printed mine out at home.
We keep a very close, I keep a very close count
Yeah.
of how many kids are in which classroom with which teacher and so forth and so on. I just want to go back to if you could go back a little bit to the banded, past those. One more, I think. Nope, two more. There you go. What we did here is we did, by best practice, look at what the minimum staffing ratios should be for each of these classrooms. And that is minimum. So that'll also help us in planning, what kind of staff is needed to address each one of the classrooms. That's the middle, it's the second column where it has the little heads.
Right.
Yeah.
But that doesn't address us if we need a paraprofessional in that classroom, correct? Or
Well, the staffing ratio is minimum recommended.
the only other question, I do have some more, but what happens if you guys might be able to answer it better. You were on this part. What happens if parents don't agree with you and they're like, no, we don't want self-contained, and the team decides yes.
That remains a discussion with the team.
Okay.
Okay, that is not something we don't run into on the regular. Where a parent believes they should be in resource and the team is recommending self-contained or vice versa, that is part of the IEP process.
And my last question is, the plans for the high school and middle school. Are we going to have something similar to this? Are we going to just, again, I think we need to get it out to parents, what we have at those two schools, the programs that we have offered for these students. Even if it's going to remain the same, I still think we should get this out, EPLAC, on your great website that you did, to people so that they can see those options. I still think it's really important.
This year, the middle and high will remain unchanged, but doing this work here is actually going to feed into the middle and high school in a more equitable way than has been in the past.
And this is going to be implemented this September?
Yes. And we do have plans, though, to do the brochures that were the last slides for the middle and the high school.
Yeah, and yeah. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And conversations have begun at the secondary schools about programming. We were just talking about that today with the high school.
Is there any other questions? Yeah.
At what point would you know I personally don't like the word hope, but that's a big part of everybody's life, that we would have enough funding and enough staff for these programs? When do you think you could come back to this committee, or would we just funnel this through to make it work?
Sandy and I had conversation about, especially in particular, paraprofessionals. In the minimum listing there, we have more than enough. Now, we don't plan on reducing because I know, for instance, the functional living and learning. They have an 8 to 1 to 2, I believe it says up there. And right now they have 4, and the needs are pretty significant where that should stay in place. What I put here was recommended minimum so that we know we need at least that. I know that there's some teacher movement right now, and so as that settles and is completed, we'll have a much better idea of who is assigned to which program.
But so that will be in our quarterly report, like where we stand,
Sure.
lined up. I think this committee just wants to get as much information in front of this situation. So we go forwards on a very positive track.
Mhm.
I know everybody looks at, minimum and stuff, but I always like to push that bar a little bit higher without putting pressure on our staff.
We've actually developed a different spreadsheet that I did want to show a sample of, but I didn't. I forgot to put it in there, of how we've broken up and we've moved students and who's going to be assigned for next year. So into a classroom. I might not know who the teacher is going to be right now if there's movement, but we have an idea of who is going to be in the classroom. As I said, we have 4 or 5 families that we need to be in contact with to confirm that they're good with the move. And then principals should have this information in hand. I think by the end of the week, if not sooner. I know that they're anxious to schedule their kindergarten orientations. And so we'd like to get that information to them. I would just like to say that this has been a very heavy lift. And the people who have been involved in it have put in all their heart and soul into working together in various stages. And I think that what you have before you is a really solid plan. And again, I think the proudest that I feel about it is because it really was grassroots. It really has come from the teachers.
And that just makes it a little tougher for our community and for us. We can't let this fail. You said something important, all the dedication that was put into this, the members sitting up here, we will not let it fail, but we need that quarterly information to make sure as a grassroots, the rest of the state looks at this as a success, just like our pre-K program with Karen and stuff like that.
Sure.
It's going to be great for this community to go forwards with this, but you'll have the back end and we'll fight for every penny you need, as long as we know you guys need the pennies. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ferreira, and school committee.
Thank you. Next item.
So today we had our Teacher of the Year ceremony, and I'd just like to acknowledge all of our school-based Teachers of the Year and our District Teacher of the Year. So for East Providence High School, Mary Cerise; Riverside, Adam Branch; Martin, Amy Moran; Myron Francis, Eileen Whalen; Hennessy, Lisa Orsini; Kent Heights, Jasmine De Silva; Orlo, Casey Duvall; Oldham, Lisa Sisson; Silver Spring, Ryan D. Cavallo; Waddington, Thomas Boucher Jr., and White Neck, Shayna Walsh. And our District Teacher of the Year was Amy Moran. So congratulations to all of them. And I'd also like to thank Leslie and Kelsey and Rebecca for presenting. And I know how much work has gone into this with all of those members of the committee. And we are truly grateful because we really feel that we're going to service students well with this.
Yes, thank you.
Next, I'd like to ask our Director of MLL, Uniza Gallant, to come up, and she'll be doing a presentation. We just received our access scores, and she'd like to update.
Good evening, all. Thank you for having me here today. As Dr. Ferran mentioned, we did release our Access 2025 scores, and I wanted to go over some of those numbers and some successes with our MLL population as we have been celebrating for the past 3 weeks since the scores have been released. So just so you know that Access is a standardized assessment that is given to MLL students to measure their language proficiency in listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Next slide. Before we start off with testing information, I always like to ground us with who our students are and the diversity within our school settings. We currently, as of today, have 298 active MLL students across the district in K-12. We also have 50 monitored students. And what that means is that they have exited us, and per guidance, we have to monitor them for 2 years to ensure that they remain successful in their academic journey while in East Providence. Our languages, our top 3 languages in our district are Spanish, Portuguese, and Creole. It pretty much captures 80% of our MLL families. For the first time ever, we have Spanish leading as our #1 language in the district. So we are seeing some demographics change when it comes to language acquisition. I always like to ground us in our vision of what we believe to be true about our MLL students. I know when I took on this role 6 years ago, we met together with different stakeholders, parents, students, and staff, and we designed what it would be to be in an ideal state as an MLL student in this district. And we really wanted to push the idea of creating human beings that are productive society members that also have an asset for the languages that they speak as opposed to a deficit. And so we've been really shifting the mindset within our general ed classrooms and our multilingual learner students that start with us that they actually bring a gift to the table. So si yo hablo en español aquí, algunos de ustedes pueden entender, pero algunos no entienden. And so what we like to say is that they're already coming to the table with a wonderful gift of, and they bring diversity and then become multilingual when we're able to meet some English proficiency with them. Next slide. I know Mrs. Riley has come up to you a couple of times to talk about the accountability system. We call it like the Yelp review sometimes with the way that stars are assigned. But we know that our schools have an accountability rating where stars are assigned. And unfortunately, sometimes you only hear about the lowest school star rating. And so that school is deemed overall for that star. What we don't tend to really focus on is the good in our stars. And I'm so proud to stand up here to say that our lowest star rating for ELP, which means English language proficiency, is 4 stars. And so if you notice, all of our schools fall under that 4-star category. In many of our schools, our MLL students are actually the highest star rating that come out in accountability. And so I just want to thank our teachers, our staff, and our families and our students for working so extremely hard on not only learning a second language, but also remaining academically proficient. I want to give a big shout out to Orlo Avenue. They are a 5-star ELP, English language proficiency school, and that is their highest star rating, and it is the highest star rating for the district. So shout out to them for the hard work that they do. Next slide. Very quickly, every year that I've been on, I know we always wait. We call it Christmas. My MLL teachers will text me in the morning, access results. We take the test in January. We don't receive until May. And so we truly await to hear how many students have met that 4.8 proficiency. And what that means is that they have shown an overall composite index score that tells us that they have proficiency in listening, speaking, reading, and writing in English, enough for them to be exited out of services. What that constitutes is a 4.8. And so we search and that data the minute it comes out to the point, and I will call him out. Mr. Orner at Riverside texted me at 6:11 in the morning, the day of access release, and says, they're out. We have access to them. Oh my God, we have exits. And so what I wanted to show here is just this East Providence School District, like historical MLL exits, because I think sometimes I know I myself forget the hard work and dedication that we've done to really create infrastructures to give students access and entry to core curriculum. And if you notice in the year 16, 17, we had 3 exits in the entire district. right? So that means if you look at all the schools and all students that were getting service, only 3 students actually met that English language proficiency exit cut score. And so this year, we exited 33 students. It is the most that at least I have access with data. It's the most we've ever exited out. And if you look at the trajectory there, we started a lot of our mindset shifting. That same vision that I talked about, that was written in 1920. So that was written in the 2019 academic start of the year. We wrote that mission. You can really see that this data tells a story of infrastructure that was designed around meeting students where they are and meeting the needs of our English language learners. And then, of course, COVID hit, and we see that 14 drop. But guess what? We've climbed right up, and now we have our highest exit that we have had post-COVID. So we're very proud of this data, and this is one of the pieces that Dr. Ferran wanted to make sure that we highlighted today. And again, this is not just MLL staff. This is all gen ed teachers. This is principals. This is really meeting the needs of all students that are in our schools, but then also really paying attention to that asset mind aspect of what our second language learners bring to the table. Next slide. This is when we love when initiatives really show up in our data. I'm a data geek, so I always like to say we can try a lot of new things, but then we always have to come back to measure to see if what we're doing is working. Again, for the first time ever, and I don't even know if this is like on a pedagogy aspect, it's really hard to be very proficient in writing and score higher than to do it in reading, because we learn to read first on the comprehension level, and writing is the last production of knowledge. And so for the first time, we're seeing writing level scores being at a level 3 and above and beating out reading. So we were really excited to see this. Why? Because our main focus for the last 2 years has been SRSD and implementing an integrated writing support. My MLL teachers have gone through significant training, specifically at the middle school level, when we know that the rigor of writing becomes you need a little bit more stamina, but also have mnemonics to be able to break down. So we are very proud. All this tells us is it justifies the hard work that we're doing with implementing SRSD, and all the teachers that have been leading teacher work, but also opening up their classrooms to develop better professional practices for writing. So we're really excited about this data. Next slide. And even more so, I'll take you to pre-K. We just finished off our pre-K screeners. And what that means is that we use our home language surveys to take a look at who is going to qualify for services. 2 years ago, Mrs. Rebello had reached out to me and said, I have all these MLL students. I know they don't get serviced yet, but what can I do? We did a professional development for teachers, and basically what it came down to is that they developed such a rich and oral language vocabulary-based environment that our MLL students are thriving there. And this data shows that. So not only do you see that there are more students needing testing, so again, another indicator that we are very diverse in our environment. We're getting much more diverse than what we were before, but less are qualifying for services. So if you notice, in the 23 year, we tested 26 students, 50% of them qualified for MLL services when they started in kindergarten. And if you notice this year, we've never tested more than we've ever tested at the pre-K. What that means is that there are multiple languages being spoken at home for our incoming kindergartners. Out of the 31, only 35% qualified for MLL services. And that's a tribute to the strong academic and, may I say, social language that's happening with play in our pre-K. So kudos to the pre-K team for just having an amazing program. I know as an MLL director and our educators, we push pre-K for our families so much because we know the integral role that it plays on developing academic language. Next slide. And as you saw the data, we have been meeting with our MLL team to really start thinking about the focuses for next year. So as we wrap up, you saw those reading scores. And as we know, data drives decision making. So for next year, we're really looking for opportunities to elevate some reading comprehension with our MLL students, but also for our regular ed students. We've been doing a lot of work together. Ms. Riley and I work together to provide professional development opportunities because our MLL students are sitting in regular ed classes. And so we're looking for some evidence-based strategies to elevate some of that reading comprehension. We also are looking forward to expanding MLL family engagement through our newly hired MLL family coordinator. So we're designing some opportunities for her to be able to increase family engagement for MLLs. We're looking to continue to strengthen MLL certification pathways. And then finally, just to continue to build upon the infrastructures that we have created to ensure that every MLL student in our districts has access and entry to core, high rigorous instruction. So thank you so much for letting me speak to you today and to really just gloat about our amazing team, our staff. We really do have amazing professionals in this district that care about students and want to see them succeed. So thank you so much, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, and thank you for that presentation. This is literally the best part of these school committee meetings for me, is to get these type of positive updates on the progress that we're making. So thank you to you, your staff, and everyone involved. It's wonderful to hear. I don't have any questions, but if anyone else on the committee does.
I'd also just like to add that we received a grant from RIDE for a pre-K literacy coach, which we think will also have a significant impact on not only our MLL students, but all of our students at the pre-K.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item. That's okay.
To our facilities update.
Good evening. Over at the high school, our steel building was delivered on May 2nd and May 5th. We have an RFP going out for the installation tonight. Bids came back for the electrical services. We had 2 companies bid, and the results were Wayne Electric at $41,000 and Sole Source Construction at $48,000. We're looking to make the award to Wayne Electric tonight also. Duct cleaning services quotes. I had a second company, 800 Duct, come out and quote the cleaning of the ductwork. Their price came back at $64,000. New England Duct Cleaning Service was $58,000. They also inquired that any commercial duct cleaning service in the state of Rhode Island requires that the individuals hold an HVAC license. It's regulated by the State Department of Labor and Training, and we only have 1 person on our staff that has the current license. Over at the high school also, the running track update. I had Cut Right Concrete come out to quote on cutting an expansion joint channel in the track. Their price came back at $75.50. Other materials estimated to bring the total repair cost to between $9,000 and $10,000. This would include a pourable silicone laid on top of a foam backer rod installed in the crack. A representative from Cape and Island Track came out on Tuesday, April 29th. The superintendent and I met with him to discuss the issues. He took pictures of the affected areas and is working to get answers from his superiors. But I've already been there with a superior. They are headed in circles in my eyes. We have found 3 schools, including East Providence, that have similar issues with their tracks, and I will be visiting to compare. On May 5th, I received a quote from Bob White of Cape and Island Tennis and Track for the repairs to the cracks in the tennis courts. The tennis court repairs were quoted at $8,900, and the track repair they had quoted at $3,300. This is for the same repair that they had previously done to the track with the same materials that proved not to hold up over time. This type of repair will only crack again in a year's time, and they will not guarantee it. I would recommend that it not be done, and we continue with the expansion joint repair instead. The composting bathroom for the high school is set to show up on the 20th of May. They were looking to install on the 21st, and the city DPW will be handling the installation and the digging of the hole, and it's been cleared by DigSafe. Over April vacation, some of the accomplishments of the school department maintenance crew. We had the Hennessy steam leak repaired. Where they were only able to access one of the two areas. One out in the hallway was not able to be accessed, so it was not feasible during the time frame. We're gonna have to cut a hole for an access port in the floor in the hallway this summer. All the duct vents around the buildings were cleaned by custodians. Boiler rooms were cleaned out. Air conditioners were cleaned for the season, and a deep cleaning throughout all buildings. At Hennessy and White Neck, we blew down the gymnasiums, fully including the ductwork, and the flags were removed from White Neck's gym also. I was able to complete the prep work of the aluminum trim required for Orlo's window gap to be done this summer. PA system wiring continued for preparation for the summertime-based installations at Silver Spring, Orlo, Francis, and White Neck. O'Neill Electric was able to accomplish the wiring requirements for the new dishwasher installed at Silver Spring, and that is now operational. And they were also able to program the gymnasium windows at Orlo to working order. Addition of 2 new offices at the administration building were accomplished. The demo framing, installation, heating, electrical, and sheetrock was accomplished. Painting and finishes will continue. The door frames just showed up today, and I am currently waiting on Allied Fire Protection to move a sprinkler head that is in the way. The new Orlo sign will be placed at the corner of the street near the flagpole. I had previously gone out for installation price that proved to be too expensive. Our maintenance crew will be installing the sign. I have the required concrete drawing, which serves as a base for the sign. We also have the concrete and tubes ready to go. DigSafe has been contacted, and the area has been cleared. Due to the other issues around the district and Orlo itself, the project was pushed down the priority list because of the parking lot issue that we have at the moment. This job will be taking place later this month, or maybe pushed as a summer project. And the Silver Spring outdoor classroom. The outdoor classroom trim work is almost finished. I'm sourcing the shade material and color to be made into custom shades that clip on to shield the students from the sun and enhance the look of the project. I have previously gone over the issues with the building inspector that were brought up, and all have been corrected. It was requested that side handrails be added, which are to be installed also. This project is looking to be wrapped up next week, and trees are also set to be added to the area by the City Tree Commission in the coming weeks. That is part of a citywide tree grant. That concludes my report.
Danny, I just have a couple follow-up questions for you. Can you, for the next meeting, can you get us just some timelines when we should be expecting these? When you say in the summer, that sign at all those been with us, I think maybe 3.5 years. So can you narrow that down to like June or July so we can make sure some of these projects start to get wrapped up?
Yep.
On that. And then can you get us a follow-up on what this metal building, if we got a closer idea, what it's gonna cost, and if we're gonna have to go after some bond money for that?
Like I said, we were going out for the installation RFP, so we'll know better what prices come back on installation. So we have the electrical and door prices already. No one ended up bidding on the garage door RFP, so we can source that out. So really, we're just waiting on the installation price, and we'll know.
So for the next
Basically.
meeting, we should have a total, because I think
We should have a total, yeah.
if we're gonna have to take money, unless we can discuss where the money's gonna, because remember, we started at 125, then we went to 150. I think we're gonna exceed $200,000 plus on this, because the electrical is already $11,000 higher. We budgeted 30,000 for O'Neill to do it. This company come in at 41. The pad came in, I forget what the pad came in over, plus we gotta get the garage door. So I'd just like to see what we can narrow down what the total for this project would be. And see what we were gonna take from the bond money if we got to borrow a little bit more for that.
Yep.
Would be good. And then just one other follow up, Danny, is the cooler down at Riverside. Can we just get an update when we might finish the pad for that?
Yep. So I had talked to Dave Dewar this week. He was supposed to go down there this week. I mean, it's still early in the week. He's supposed to go down there. I talked to him, and he's gonna lay out the asphalt with the
Yes.
ramp and seed the grass and finish the grass.
All right.
That's in the works.
And we'll be 100% because
That'll be
the
100%.
inside's 100% done. We're just waiting.
Yeah, it's already operational.
Okay,
Yep.
on that, yeah. Yeah, if we could just get some timeline, Danny, that would be great. And I want to thank you for the update. Like I said, just when we're going to, take care of that window issue, we're going to put the metal up there with the
Yep.
samples.
I already got it all ready to go.
Just one other question. To get the windows working, who'd you say O'Neill did that?
O'Neill.
And we're going to have to pay him for that. All right, that's what we got to, items like that, we're going to make sure that don't slide through our fingers. That should have been all wrapped up with that $2 million window project when we sent NASA back in there to fix all that for $138,000. We should have had that rolled into that.
The cost of that was rolled into it at the time, but it wasn't on the scope of Lockheed. So that was separate from Sean. So I'll have to look back into that contract and see what we had. I'm just can't think of it now at the moment.
That's fine. I'd like to meet with you on that because, like I said, if that wasn't in the scope of work, I want to see who missed that out of our OPM team, our engineers, our designers, how that got missed.
Yeah, we can have that at the facilities meeting.
Excellent.
Yep.
Thank you.
Through the chair, I just had a question on the duct cleaning. Are we going to move forward with that? What's the next steps?
So at the last meeting, you guys had the vote. So I was just
We have to go out for an RFP.
Yeah.
It exceeds the amount. So yeah, so next step would be go out for an RFP. The committee can make a decision.
Can we have that for the next meeting? The RFP. so that
RFP?
we can-
sure.
And Dave, I just got to follow up one thing on that with Sandy. And Danny, if you can just enlighten me with this, can we just I know you're saying here where it says all commercial duct cleaning companies in Rhode Island have to have licensed people. I'm still want to push. I think our guys can deal with this. Buying the equipment because just going back a few years back, I don't know if Sandy was involved with it. When we have a maintenance crew, they don't fall under the same statute as a company. Meaning when we had that issue with our H2AV guys and we had the labor and training meeting at City Hall with Kathy Crowley and stuff, they brought a lot of things to light where we have a maintenance team, they're actually allowed to work on a boiler, which totally confused me, even though if they're not qualified, there is nothing in the state statute that says our maintenance guys can't clean our boilers like we did at the high school for years. So can we just clarify that we're not a duct cleaning company, that we wouldn't fall into that same purview? Because like I said, we got to get it done. But like I said, we're almost, to the end of the school year. I'd like to see if we could get our guys to do that. And like I said, buy some equipment for $6,000-$7,000 maybe, research it. Because even if we can save $15,000 or $20,000 and have this done in overtime or something, I think that's the way this district has to start looking to save every penny we can. Thank you.
Thanks, Danny. Next item.
Facilities report?
Nope.
Oh, finance report. Sorry. It has been a long day.
I can do that too. Good evening, everyone. Year to date, we continue to be on a good path, being a little over the halfway point for the fiscal year. A few items that I would just like to point out to you. Right off at the top, as you can see in the 51,000 series, you're looking at the budgeted number for substitutes and what we have spent year to date. While this is concerning, there are some realized savings in the salary line item from positions not being filled, salaries for people being hired coming in lower, and as well as some savings in some other line items that will help that line. But obviously, as time goes on, that's going to be a line that we're going to have to keep a close eye on. For many years, we have had an MLL categorical grant. And for years, this grant was tracked with its own fund number. It never fell within the realm of the general fund. Last year, RIDE folded the MLL categorical grant money into our state aid. However, for the reporting purposes, they really hadn't figured out how they were doing it. And so we were tracking it as its own categorical grant until this year, where they decided and told us, no, we want you to track it through the general fund and not through the grant. So beginning this month, there are some MLL categorical expenditures that will be showing up on the finance report. So some lines will show the MLL expenses where maybe we had a budgeted amount of 0. Two accounts where this came into play. First, account 53301 in the professional development line item. So a little bit over half of that 77,000 is attributed to PD that was required as part of the MLL categorical grant. And secondly, account 56401 for textbooks. You can see in that line we have a budgeted of 0, but there's an approximately a $14,000 expenditure in that line item. And again, that's due to the MLL work that needed to happen. On the revenue side, we remain on target. However, I just wanted to point out in the other category for the revenue, we received a check from the East Bay Collaborative from their closure for $250,000. Those funds, per the Auditor General, were recorded in that line item. So when you see that amount on that page, that includes the $250,000. With the permission of the chair, I would like to thank the current school committee and the previous school committees for your trust and support over the years. It has been an honor to serve this community and to work with you for the benefit of the students in East Providence. To the dedicated teachers and staff, thank you for all you do and for always welcoming me into your classrooms. Sitting in the office all day, you sometimes forget the impact of the work being done behind the scenes. To walk the halls, hang in the main office, poke my head into a classroom, help to remind me of the importance of the work and why I do what I do. Being a very small part of the great work that our instructional people do every day is humbling, and I'm grateful to have been a part of that, of your students and families for the last 7 years. To the superintendent, assistant superintendent, directors, and principals, thank you. It has been an amazing opportunity to work alongside the most dedicated educators and professionals in this state. Oh boy, have I learned a lot through Chevron parking and water. Man, we had water coming everywhere. And while you may not see it, and yes, I'm very proud of doing the high school work and the Martin work, but the one project that really makes me smile is doing the roof at RMS. And while no one sees it, if you could have seen the Swiss cheese that roof was, and once we did the roof, that was just great to see us do that. But I'm just tremendously grateful to all of you for what you taught me and our journey. This city is very fortunate to have an incredible professional staff in their finance office. There are a myriad of back-end functions that happened seamlessly for a $100 million organization, and they take care of it with the greatest of ease and professionalism every day. So to Michael Hubert, Controller, Trish Furtado and Kristen Chase in Payroll, Terry Valley in AP, and Jessica Aruda in AR and School Lunch, thank you for the hard work and dedication that you give the taxpayers every single day. You are a true example of Townie pride. I could not have asked for a better group of individuals to work alongside each day. Thank you for allowing me to say these comments. I'm sure you have some questions about the finance report. So thank you. Thank you.
Did anyone have any questions?
I have a couple. And Craig, I'm gonna, I always speak what's on my mind. I'm
Yes, you
gonna sit
do.
here and worry about where this district's gonna go without you.
You're going to be fine.
Time will tell. We've been in great shape. We went through a lot of tough times, but I'm a little concerned, but time will tell. So we'll get back to some of the items. The $250,000 check that we got, that got rolled into our regular general fund.
Correct. That's where the Auditor General wanted us to put that.
Great for him. The question I got, do we know where it got spent or is it spent yet?
Has not been spent yet.
Okay, so that $250,000 is still there.
That's part of the pot of revenue.
Yes. And then we're in good shape, and you had said based on some of the positions that we didn't fill.
Correct.
So that money is still available, or it's not available, or we used it for other things.
To the best of my knowledge, that they have not been used.
Okay.
So there are some positions that have not been filled.
Okay, because I know you won't be here, but that's something that the committee's going to keep an eye on because those positions have to be filled.
Correct. That's up for you to decide.
Right. No, that we can't decide these things if we don't know about them.
Yep.
I have a big issue with the I don't know about issue. You know what I'm saying? So we
Sure.
get a report. So as long as we know that money, if we're going to use it in this year's budget to make it wash, I'm okay with it. But next year, I just want to make sure that if we budget for an item and we apply it somewhere, it goes to the right spot. And I think that would be it. The 250s in there. The rest of the money probably got washed somewheres. So I think we'll finish out this year in good shape. But I think next year, especially if we fill these positions, you know what I'm saying? If we don't have a bigger surplus than that 35,000 that you had mentioned, we're going to have some issues. But I hope your phone call will always be answered for this district.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. You know, and I think with the increase in state aid,
Yep.
with the increase that the city will be giving, couple that with hopefully the legislation for Bradley Hospital, that will have a nice impact on the special education tuitions out of district and the transportation. We've also there's been some movement on the regions for transportation. So the region that we're in is going to shrink, which is good. So there's good news coming down the road. Correct.
Thank you again,
Through
Craig.
the chair.
Correct. Thank you.
I know I already said what I wanted to say last time, but Craig, you took us through some really rough times. I think maybe 4 or 5. I don't know how many finance directors I've been through, but you took our schools. You just made us stable and secure, and I'm glad I got to do this ride with you. Glad we did the high school in Martin. I wouldn't have wanted it any other way. You have come to fundraisers. You have shown up at many events. You are more than a finance director here. You have become part of Townie community. And I am going to miss you dearly. You know that. You just have some kind of special spark that I don't think can be replaced. So I do hope that you continue to be a phone call away. I know where you live. I know where you're going. I have no problem.
Everyone knows where I live.
I have no problem stalking you. But I just want you to know how grateful that I am, and I hope I speak for many, many East Providence residents that you were able to take us from where we are to where we are today.
Thank you. As I said, I've been very fortunate to have been not only part of a great finance team, but the administrative team. So it's all teamwork.
And if before you could go, if you can find the, because we're only at 1% left of money for substitutes. So if you can find a little money, because I feel as though we're going to use that 1% by the end of this week. So
I'll shake the money tree.
we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Through the chair, I just had a question on how we're funding zero budgeted line items. And, is there a reserve line item or,
Sure.
another account or?
Yeah. So let me just pull out a couple just because they're right here in front of my screen. So account 53220, we have that's labeled within our software as autism project consultants. Really, that's behavior consultants that there's been an identified need for the students, and we needed to bring them in. So we do have some folks that we've been fortunate to use through our grants. Kelsey, who was up here, her work has been funded through a grant. But there was more services for the students that were needed. So for that $40,000 that we've spent since November, we needed to have that for the kids. We're going to find that somewhere. A couple lines down, so in 53301, so for that line item, there's some professional development that was needed for the IT department. So that was put through. They've had some new hires. And there's also some professional development that initially was funded through a grant, and that grant funding dried up. So the balance of that is now showing, and for however long that PD will be going on, that will show up there. Anything that has a zero and we're spending money, it's not without going through the scrutiny and the approval of the superintendent first.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much, Greg. Next item.
Policy Committee report, medication policy, first read.
Did anyone have any questions with regards to the medication policy?
Yeah, I had a question. Page 2 that bleeds into page 3. Medication administration of off-site school-sponsored activities. Each school district or non-public school authority should develop a procedure or protocol allow students to self-carry and self-administer a daily supply of medication, including controlled substance during an off-site school-sponsored event, et cetera, et cetera. I could be overlooking here, but I don't see any specific language about distribution. I know that language is very heavy in the first page. Certified school nurse, teacher, self-administer medications. I didn't know if that potentially is something that is maybe missing from the language. I was kind of interested to hear the thoughts of the committee. It's not specified. I'm not sure if it's because it's specified in the top. However, it not being specified under the line for administration of off-site school-sponsored activities could just lead to potentially some confusion.
Isn't this but this is self-carry, isn't it? Self-administered.
This is for self-administered only.
Correct. Self-carry, self-administered.
Okay. Gotcha. So then is there lines in here in terms of, so essentially according to this policy, no students that would need a teacher or a nurse to administer, they wouldn't have that opportunity? I could just be overlooking.
You just said.
So if this is the end of page 2, medication administration at offsite school-sponsored activities. And then in the second line, each school district or non-public school authority shall develop a procedure or protocol to allow students to self-carry and self-administer. Got it. And then the following page outlines, said medication shall be supplied by the parent with parent written authorization for use, etc. But then I don't see language in terms of a student who may need medication that isn't going to be self-administered. So an 8-year-old student needs to have medication distributed at noontime. They're on a school field trip. There's no language in here that says who's the one who's administering. Now, I know it does say that in the beginning of the policy, right? The very top line, it does say that. However, my first read, I felt like it was just a little hazy. Like, that's why I'm just questioning if anyone else like read it the same way or if there's something missing there. If it should be there. I just felt like it just felt like a gap that could potentially just be filled, for offsite administration if it wasn't going to be self-administered solely.
We can definitely look at that. I don't think I was considering young children, really young children, but that could be a factor.
I mean, my 4th grade daughter's going to the planetarium tomorrow, and if she needs medication administered while she's at the planetarium, if she isn't able to self-administer it, who would be the person that's authorized to do so? Again, I know it says it in the top. I just didn't know if it should have been planted there as well for that clarity.
In many cases, a school nurse teacher does go on those trips where a student may need, if we have a diabetic or if.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a problem adding it there, though, right?
No, so our head district nurse revised the policy based on state law. So I would rather consult with her before I put anything else in the policy but I'm happy to bring it back to her.
And and my
I
brain
just wouldn't want to be in
also,
violation.
I also might have caught a gap too because of the way the sentence breaks. And I know this is a draft, but the third line is literally during and.
Yeah.
And then it goes on to the next page. And so I'm starting to think like there maybe was something that was just didn't get washed over to the next page as well. And I thought that the language was very heavy in the first handful of paragraphs in terms of, the first 2 paragraphs literally start with the same line of a certified school nurse teacher shall administer medications, twice in a row. And I just didn't know if it was something that folks also thought might have just been missing. And after we can chew on that but my second my thought question, page 4, item number 3, training shall be provided annually for all such school personnel who might be administering epinephrine auto injectors such as an EpiPen or any other similar device that is used for automatic injector, etc. My question for that, maybe more suited for Dr. Ferrand, is just, does that mean that training is taking place for all of our teachers in the entire district annually?
I think that's part of the required annual training. So bloodborne pathogens,
Sure.
all of the.
Okay.
So school nurses provide that at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, for every administrator, for every
For their staff.
paraprofessional, for
They usually do it at a faculty meeting.
Okay.
Or we have some of it is also a required video that they sign off on.
I was just thinking perhaps if that is the case, it might be a good idea to also apply that to that paragraph. Just, annual training is provided to all staff that oversee children. Because essentially, as I'm reading it, that could be anybody.
We can run that by the nurse as well.
Cool. And you just have to excuse me. I need to blow my nose.
Yeah. Does anyone else have any questions about that? Yeah, he can email that to us, right? You want it?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would
Yeah.
be easy.
Yep. We just get that email. Hearing none, we'll move on to the next item.
Field trip policy, first read.
While we wait for Ryan, did anyone here have any questions with regards to this policy? We'll wait for Ryan to get back. So Ryan, we had moved on to the field trip policy. I didn't know if you had any questions with regards to that policy.
Just a kind of general. There seemed to be a lot more language that was removed here, and kind of reading through the red line can understand why. But not much was added in. With that being correct, there was just a lot of language that was taken out, with just like a couple of things added in. And I guess my other question I had was the waivers. Are are these all consistent with what is currently in there, or are they new?
Those are consistent with what was already in there.
Just sorry, one more question. Probably more best suited for Dr. Ferrand. Just a question about field trips in general. I agree wholeheartedly that field trips are vehicles for expanding educational opportunities. And I was just curious, the funding for these field trips that comes directly from the general fund, and are we allowing like all of our students to go on field trips, or are field trips mainly funded through PTO PTAs, or how does a lot of that go through?
Yeah, field trips are usually funded through PTAs, and then there are some of the principals use their line item to provide some of the transportation costs or
Principals have that authority to do so. Are those decisions happening like in the beginning of the school year, like essentially now for next school year?
I don't know if they're happening right now for next school year. I don't think that that's been a discussion yet, but principals work with their faculties to determine, you know, where they're going on field trips throughout the year.
Right on. Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none. Next item.
Building committee report.
Over at Martin Middle School, construction phase 1 has reached 51% completion. Some of the project milestones are acoustical ceilings, electrical primaries have been pulled, flooring installation, and the turnover of the auditorium and gym for construction. Heat lines leading from the construction area have been rerouted to control phase 2 side only for the heating season. The new main gas line was installed over April break in the rear of the building. Existing rooftop units on the gym and auditorium have been demolished for replacement. Wall tile on the 3rd floor has been completed. The 2nd floor is about a quarter of the floor finished so far. Classroom cabinetry has started to be installed also. Work in the north field area to shape the landscape has begun. A look ahead for the next 3 months of construction is exterior envelope work, interior finishes, and finishes to mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and fire protection. At Waddington, we have been provided clearance from the Army Corps of Engineers for the water mitigation. This falls back to par in civil engineering. And they're waiting on the RIPD's permit from Rhode Island DEM. This will now, two sets of windows on the west side of the building were replaced. On the lower floor, curbing and stands were installed to accept the new RTUs on the roof. And the last two boilers have been demolished and removed, making space for the new electrical switchgear. Electrical work continues to keep the project ahead of schedule without disrupting education. 4 Conex boxes have also been delivered to hold school belongings while the work is completed over the summer. Prep and packing has begun. All right, just gonna switch page. I'll look ahead to the future. We'll start with the Rhode Island DEM review for the mitigation work, the new ADA stair lifts, and we are continuing daily logistics and coordination in preparation for phase 2 this summer. Any questions?
And just as not sitting on the building, as sitting here as a school committee member and through standing, if you can just work with getting this committee updated paperwork on, we'll call it the water issue, because we did take the 600,000 from Orlo to ship it down there. But I just want this committee to get all the paperwork on that in the final dollar amount. If it comes in under the 640,000, I just want this committee to have the right to say we could spend it on something else versus it just getting sucked up into that $20 million project down there.
Yeah, I think the initial estimate was around 480.
Right. So in other, I think we shifted over. Sandy, did we shift this 600?
We did, but it's not money that's necessarily right there in the project. It was money that was allocated, but it's not necessarily money that's sitting in the bond either. So, I mean, we can discuss it. It's,
Right. No, what I'm saying is I can go along with taking it from one school, shipping it down there to deal with that issue. I'm okay with that. If it's only 400 or 5,000 and there's $100,000 left, I just want to see, could we get the sidewalks? Or I know it was based on that letter in order to shift it from one project to the other.
and it had to, I don't know if that
It
was
has to remain at
approved.
Waddington.
Yeah.
It can only stay at Waddington. So you'd have to look into subsidizing it, like the gym floor or whatever you have as an alternate.
Oh,
something
I
like
love that. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. That's really good. So we put in paperwork for a school in a different ward. However, we put it on the list, it got approved for $600,000 for Orlo. Well, that's what happened with, and now we didn't use it at Orlo. We took it from Orlo. If Craig could follow me here, because can you
Right.
give us the loop with that?
Right. So the last time, so when we submitted when we did the comprehensive plan and we submitted stage 2 to RIDE, we gave them everything, right? Martin was in there, Waddington was in there, whole bunch of other things. RIDE was the one who said, we'll approve you for Martin, we'll approve you for Waddington, and then Orlo Avenue. That they decided. We didn't rate it. We didn't rate them. It was up to RIDE. So when the first MOA was signed, that we have 5 years to use to get the reimbursement on those funds, that was in there. It was Orlo Avenue, Martin, and Waddington. Because at this particular point, there's no need that we're going to be moving forward on that proposed work.
Okay, not to be disrespectful, interrupt. I say
Yep.
I followed you up to that
Yep.
point.
Yep.
So that school was assigned $600,000.
Correct.
We had, 5 years to spend it at that school.
Correct.
So the sidewalks and parking lots are a disaster there. We had $600,000 allocated to that school for 5 years, and we let it sit there and did nothing. Now, all of a sudden, stop me if I'm wrong, I won't consider it. Follow me though. We did a project down at Waddington, roughly $20 million. A 35-year project never got incorporated with it, which we call it the water issue. So there's no money to deal with the water issue based out of the $20 million of the bond money. So we go to the other end of the city, jack the $600,000 from that school, send it down to Waddington to deal with the water issue. My only question is, if there's $100,000 left of that 600 that we took from another school, we can't ship it back to that school to fix the sidewalks or the parking lot there.
You would have to ask RIDE to move the money back to Orlo. So the good thing is that because those three schools were identified in that MOA, you can move the money among those three schools. So we moved it out. Say it comes in at 480 and there's funds left. I suppose that it would be very easy for Danny to write a letter to RIDE to say, we need to move this money back in because the original money that we were projecting to spend for the water mediation issue did not happen. We came in less. We want to move those funds back. You just have to spend that money by December 2027.
Correct. And if we can't, because we did have an issue, Danny, with the parking lot there that the city came and helped. When we always say we don't got the money to deal with these issues, but we find out after the fact we do have the money. So in other words, when does this committee get to have any input on this is the question that I have. So in other words, that the parking lot down at Wantington, if there's $100,000 left, why can't this committee decide if we should finish half of that parking lot, say, if it comes in that money? Why are the teachers subject to deal and walk on these dangerous situations when we have money to address them? That just blows my mind. 5 years, we had $600,000 at Orlo, and we never fixed the sidewalk there.
Yeah. Well, but to your point, since you are now sitting on the building committee, you can bring that up. So I was not aware that there were parking lot issues for the items that we have on the value engineering list. The new cafeteria flooring for Waddington, the cupboards for above. So if there's an item that needs to be added on, then please bring that forward.
Oh, no, but that's where I think the disconnect is. The five of us sit here that was elected by the city to do a job. Some of them can't do a job if they don't know what's going on. I have a serious issue with that because I could sit here and I could start questioning them, and a lot of them just go to the meeting, but a lot of them sitting up here don't know what's going on. I think that school is in somebody's ward, and I think if we're going to jack that money from that ward, that individual should know about it versus just taking it like it never existed. And that individual sat up here going on his third year, in which sidewalks is a nightmare. I don't think he was aware there was $600,000 that we could have just writ a letter and start addressing them issues. That's what I have a problem with. I have an issue with everything's going to roll through the building. They're not elected officials there. They don't have to answer the phone calls when people are breaking their ankles and stuff. They don't have to answer the phone call when cars are going into minor holes. They're not sinkholes. The building committee, they don't answer to none of that. We were elected to do a job. I'm just trying to bring the openness to my colleagues that I believe they have the right to know.
Sure.
That's,
sure.
that's,
no, and I think Danny's been doing a great job at keeping the committee informed every month, in terms of what the building committee talks about. So.
And I agree with you.
Yep.
What I'm saying, when we start shifting money from different wards and different schools, because my next question for the next meeting is, I know you're going to be, is there any other money sitting out there that is just sitting in limbo and we got a deadline to spend?
I can tell you no.
And I believe you.
No.
Yes.
No.
But no, because you know what I'm trying to say. Like, it's a shame that, that school went through them issues for 5 years now, and we're under the gun to spend that money by the end of, this time. But we had $600,000.
Yeah.
We can jack, different money. But it seems when certain individuals want things, there's always money around. I have a personal issue with that, and I don't mind saying that.
Craig, was that money designated for the front handicapped accessibility? That's what the money was. The 600,000
Believe
was
so.
right. Not the sidewalks, not the parking lot. The money was designated by RIDE for that particular, which it was decided that the handicap ramp would not be installed when the building when we started looking at the projects.
Correct.
Okay.
The front And that building is beautiful.
Okay.
We have 2 accesses for special needs or wheelchairs.
Right.
Right,
I'm
but
in
that's
agreement.
what the
Exactly.
money
I'm
was
in agreement,
designated
but
for.
It's amazing how one swipe of a pen and a letter took it from one end of the city to the other end.
Because that was all part of the bond project. Those 3 projects were part of the bond project. We are in the process of submitting a stage 2 in the district for all of these other paving projects. And so that's all being submitted with the next stage 2 that goes into RIDE, which will allow us to start to move forward on those projects, which was one of the
Getting
things
ready.
we talked about addressing
Getting
at the
ready.
facilities committee is rank ordering the projects that we felt were the priorities.
No, I
Yeah.
saw all that. And I said,
All right.
Thank you.
We can look at the sidewalks here, but we can't escape the parking lot down at Waddington, because that's part of that bond issue. That's part of that school. Would
The
we agree?
Waddington pavement, the Waddington parking lot, I don't believe is part of the project. It's not in the scope of work that we,
Right.
yeah.
Oh, the back?
Yes.
Oh, not the parking, you said the parking lot,
That's what I'm
Oh,
saying.
the pathway. Oh,
If
back
from
there.
one to-
That's
what I'm
part of
saying.
the whole,
That
scope
was
of work.
Even though we didn't do it in phase 1, or it wasn't in phase 2, but it got stuck into phase 2.
when you say the parking lot, I'm thinking the parking lot and
Yeah,
I'm like,
that's what I
wow, that's news to me. But no, so the back area.
So
Yes, that's
through
exactly.
the chair.
Yep,
I
go ahead.
Just want to make a comment. So sitting on those building committees for Martin, knowing that the bond money was not going to be fixing the water or the pool there, I have been begging and pleading with with this committee to get money to do this, just like I did 10 years ago, just like I'm doing now. And that's what I did. I became the squeaky wheel at those meetings. Remember, they just said, if you want something done, say it. So I said it. I said, we need to fix it. We walked it. That's how that all came about. It unfortunately it wasn't part of the bond money. Just like the gym floor wasn't. They took priorities. People, sometimes you get outvoted for stuff. And priorities were all of the other things that were getting done, mostly for safety and security reasons. Some things had to go. Now we're back to this, where the puddling is an issue. It has been an issue since 1970 something, or as long as everyone says it. Mr. Cahoon said it was a problem back then. So now that we have this money, or now that we have said that we're going to try to fix this somehow after trying other ways. I mean, we had the city dig up the plumbing or the sewer down there. We've had so many different ways of trying to fix this. And it wasn't until we saw it continuing to leak in that I think this building committee that we currently sit on decided, yeah, we're going to take action. So I just want to give my 2 cents on how that has come to fruition tonight. But agreed, the money, we've talked about this at building committees, this $600,000. Why RIDE picked Orlo out of the other schools, we don't know. But that's all I want to say.
Thank you. Thank you, Danny, Craig. Next item.
Thank you, Danny.
Public comment?
Renee Ignacio.
Good evening. I'm here tonight as a taxpayer and a resident of East Providence, and I'm here to talk to the 5 committee members that are here. First off, I want to express how disappointed I am in the 5 people that we call our school committee sitting up there. I sent the 5 of you a personal email from my own personal account on the frustrations I am feeling with all of you. And the one of yous had the cojones to send my email to my boss. How dare you break that trust I had with you as a resident? Where is your ethics? Do you even have any? One of you up there decided to mess with my job for what? So I wouldn't, as my boss says, ruffle feathers? Well, here I am now. So I guess no resident of East Providence can stand here before you or send you a personal email to voice their concerns without having backlash? How will the residents feel when this issue becomes a public thing? And how will they ever trust you or confide in you, or even step forward when this becomes public knowledge? My concern has always been and always will be for the safety of its kids. I have sent emails and they are ready to go to the president of the Rhode Island Association of School Committee and Rhode Island Department of Ed with ethic complaints against the school committee for sending my email to my boss and for turning the mic off at the last committee meeting. And that's all I have to say. If anybody, and Jess, I appreciate your return to email. And I'm sorry if I offended you, but I was a little, it did. And I do not ever expect to be spoken to by a parent like that while I'm doing my thing. And I shouldn't. So that's all I have to say. And I don't ever expect to be disrespected like that. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert, I don't want to mispronounce your name, Sharandu?
Madam Superintendent, Mr. Chairman, Robert Caradillo. I addressed this committee before, as you remember, Mr. Pereira. Good. Do what you got to do. I'll reclaim my time. Class. A lot of class you got.
Hey, listen, if you want to make it, you have your 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Federal judge invalidated the Biden administration's attempted illegal Title IX hijacking on January 9th. Then President Trump signed 2 executive orders restoring Title IX to its original intent, which was to protect citizens, especially girls, against discrimination based on sex, not gender identity. That is covered under Title VI and Title VII. These executive orders keep biological males out of female sports and private spaces, eliminate the mandated use of pronouns by teachers and staff, and make it known to all that there will be no secrets kept from parents regarding any social transitioning of their children while at school. Our Attorney General and RIDE Commissioner think it's fine and fair for boys to compete with girls athletically, to occupy the same bathrooms and locker rooms as them, violating their private spaces, simply because they identify as girls. They don't care about the law in this case, or truth, because they have an agenda. One cannot pick and choose which laws one obeys. Now the Rhode Island Interscholastic League has attempted to cover itself by kicking the can back to the local districts, like you. They all know that this is wrong. That's why they did it. And it's unlawful. And they are more than willing to let you take the fall, which you will. Instead of heeding this advice by the Attorney General and from Angelica Infante Green, you need to do 2 things. You need to immediately change your Title IX policy, as several districts around the state have already done, to have President Trump's 2020 ruling, which protects all people against discrimination based on sex, not gender identity, in Title IX, exactly the way Title IX was intended when it was written and adopted by Congress in 1972. Your current policy listed on your website is in conflict with the federal judge's January 9th ruling, and it is unlawful. Secondly, you need to protect our girls. The state of Maine, Columbia University, and others have found out that this administration is serious and need to dump RIDE trans guidance, which also violates federal law, and toss the Attorney General's letter in the trash. If you don't, you'll lose funding, you'll place this district in legal peril, and be subject to both Title IX and Office of Civil Rights complaints. Wrapping up, you cannot continue to place our girls with this policy in unsafe, uncomfortable, and unlawful positions. This is simple common sense, right versus wrong, and it is the law. If your solicitor is worth his or her salt, you'll be advised to make this change. The state's and district's obsession with gender identity and discriminating against biological girls will end one way or the other.
All right,
It is your
minutes are up.
choice.
Your 3 minutes are up. Thank you. Libby Merrill.
Hi, I'm Libby. I am a parent of a elementary school student in the East Providence district, and I want to start by saying I'm so glad I came to tonight's meeting because there was so much good news. And every time I hear employees of this district come up and present and speak, I'm always so happy and proud to be a parent here. So well done to all of the employees, some of whom aren't here anymore. But so I wanted to also start by saying that in East Providence, I saw the MLL presentation said diversity is our strength, and that is absolutely true. And that means all kinds of diversity. So diversity of language group, diversity in race, and diversity in gender identity. And all of that is a strength that our students bring with them when they come in every day. Title IX does not prohibit, it does not say anything about bathrooms or sports. Title IX prohibits discrimination on the basis of sex. And it is correct that that language has changed in the last couple of years, but the East Providence policy was behind and it never got updated. So our policy actually already didn't have gender identity in it, which is unfortunate because I think that it should protect gender identity too, but it's also irrelevant because the state of Rhode Island, we have to, as a city, as you know, adhere not just to federal law, but also state law. And the state of Rhode Island guidance does already protect gender identity. And there are non-discrimination laws that protect discrimination on the basis of gender identity. So we already have to stick to those. And furthermore, the state of Rhode Island, I agree, we probably agree on very few things, myself and the last speaker, but one thing we do agree on is that I also don't think that the Rhode Island Interscholastic League should have taken out their strong language saying that students can participate in sports based on their gender identity, because I don't think it's fair to have to kick that back to principals. So I have written to the Rhode Island Interscholastic League to say the same thing, because people need to be protected in sports. If you follow the logic of banning transgender girls from girls' sports even a little bit, you'll see that it actually would hurt all girls. It is not about protecting girls. I don't want my daughter, who just called me because I'm missing bedtime, to have to prove her sex in order to play in a girl's sport. That's pretty horrifying to me, to think that my daughter would have to take a hormone test or a physical exam at some point to prove her sex in order to participate in a girl's sport. And that's the logical outcome of putting parameters around gender in sports. That's what we see. We saw in Boston recently, a person was kicked out of a bathroom because someone assumed a cis woman was a trans woman, because gender is a social construct that's been made up. And so there's not really a clear way to determine that. And so things that are, as we know, when we discriminate against one group, it often has an impact of discriminating against multiple groups. So that's not something that I want to see here as a parent. I want to make sure that all students can participate in sports or in school in any way, in the way that makes them comfortable, because in East Providence, diversity is our strength. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Melody Pimentel.
Hi, good evening, everyone. As a resident of East Providence in Ward 3 and a proud East Providence High School graduate of the class of 2015, I'm here to urge the school committee to stand firm in protecting transgender students. I strongly oppose altering existing policies in response to recent executive orders or directives. The school department must not act hastily to align with these new federal policies. While one federal court has questioned the Biden administration's Title IX interpretation, this does not override Ride's guidance. Other courts may yet rule that the current administration's orders are arbitrary and capricious under the Administrative Procedure Act. Even if upheld, these directives do not permit our state to trample on student civil rights. Beyond Title IX, federal law offers clear protections. The 2022 Fourth Circuit ruling in Williams versus Kincaid confirms that Title II of the American with Disabilities Act safeguards students with gender dysphoria. This applies directly to public school districts like ours, requiring reasonable accommodations such as restroom access matching a student's gender identity, evaluated on a case-by-case basis. These are not optional, they are legal obligations to uphold every student's rights. For guidance, I urge the committee to refer to the joint letter from the Office of the Attorney General and the Rhode Island Department of Education, dated February 28, 2025. It is titled, Ensuring a Safe and Inclusive Learning Environment for All Students. This guidance reinforces our duty to protect them. Finally, I ask the committee to keep its focus on the district's real challenges, reducing our absenteeism. We're seeing progress there, and we must build on that. Boosting our low test scores and supporting our students in poverty. These issues shape our students' futures and deserve our attention. We should not focus on the cultural distractions that the gentleman from Westerly brought up tonight. I thank you for your time and dedication to our students in our community.
Thank you. Jimmy Dufresne? Sorry if I mispronounced that.
There's a reason that every time I go to CVS, I always hand them my ID and say I gave up pronouncing it a long time ago. And spelling it. Anyhow, as a resident of East Providence, my name is Jimmy Dufferina. I am from Ward 3. I would like to respectfully urge the school committee to stand firm in protecting all students within our district, including our transgender students. Contrary to the suggestion from the gentleman in Westerly, I believe our focus should be remained on the critical issues facing our city, such as the impact of poverty on test scores and educational outcomes, as well as making sure students are equipped to actually graduate with real-world skills to find meaningful employment. I understand this is a sensitive issue. I grew up down south and I was a registered Republican most of my life, but as my affiliations have changed, my principles have not. And I believe very firmly that the government has no right to tell people, to tell our students what their gender expression should be. I would like to thank all of you for your time.
Thank you. Trisha Furtado.
Good evening, everyone. Thank
Evening.
you for allowing me to speak. Sadly, I am following a much more difficult situation and kind of stealing thunder from a good friend of mine. However, I am an employee of the East Providence School Department for nearly 30 years. And if you know me, you know I'm a very passionate person regarding my beliefs, my stances. A few times I've thought of speaking on issues, but chose to keep it to myself. But this is something that I will not quiet myself from. Again, my name is Trisha Furtado, and I've been so truly lucky and blessed to have worked for my friend, Mr. Craig Enos. I could not have asked for a more dedicated, hardworking, and supportive boss. And I brought my tissues because I knew this was going to happen. His respect for his staff, along with his guidance, understanding, and honest listening and interest to our thoughts and opinions has created a team built on respect. I could go on, and if you know me, you're sure of that. But I don't need to say anymore, because if you know him, you know why I don't need to go on any longer. And if you don't know him, you should. So to my dear friend Craig, who's hiding behind Ben, from now and forever, may God bless you, Godspeed, and may nothing but the greatest of life carry you through your next chapter. And I left my drink there. But to the dash, my friend, to the dash, to Sabsh. Thank you.
Next item.
Discussion action items. Update on Silver Spring Outdoor Classroom.
Thanks for coming up, Danny. I know you and I had discussed this just briefly, but I just want to go over some of the concerns residents and parents had with regards to the outdoor classroom at Silver Spring. You can, I'll just throw them out there and you can address them. Location was one of the concerns there. The other one is shade, and the completion of the project. I mean, I understand this project's been in motion for quite some time. So if you could just update the committee and the public with regards to those concerns. Thank you.
Yep. So the location was put there because it has to be ADA. So it's right near the back door, so a wheelchair could come out onto the grass, and it's in close proximity to the concrete. The shades we're gonna have made up that go on top, that kind of cascade over the three sections of the outdoor classroom as a amphitheater style. And like I said, with the trees being planted behind it from the Tree Commission's grant, that should also help with shade in the long run.
Was there any concern on your part with regards to the proximity of this outdoor classroom to the street?
Yeah, it was talked over with the threat assessment team in the beginning.
Okay, yeah.
They originally wanted it in the front of the building, down kind of near the teacher's lot, but that section seems to have water issues, and it gets very soft in rainstorms and things like that. So they would basically sink into the mud. So being proximity to the field with more cars driving in and things like that, they thought it would be better on the backside because of the for one, the sunlight, and they have more cameras along the back of the school provided in that area. It was thought to be more out of sight than in the front of the school.
And when do you anticipate this project being 100% complete?
I would say in about a week.
Really? Okay. All right. I appreciate your input. Thank you.
No problem.
Next item.
East Bay Educational Collaborative money update.
That's you, Tony. Ferrera.
Yes, Craig had kind of answered the question that I have. Sandy, just where that money's going to end up going, if we can just let us know where that money goes.
Yeah, so right now, we're just going to keep it in that account, and we're not making a decision on where to spend it right now. I mean, you saw some of our line items are over. I don't know if At some point, we'll have to reallocate to somewhere else. At the end of the fiscal year, it could be rolled over to capital or OPEB. There's not, I mean, that money came in. We don't have a plan to spend that money.
Thank you.
Dave, can I just comment on that? I'm sorry, just a quick thought. Okay, Sandy, we'll just discuss some of this at our next, construction meeting, because where I kind of disagree with this is, if we have some kind of plan, once again, $250,000, it's a decent chunk of money, but the repairs that we can do to some of our sidewalks that are owned by us, every sidewalk that we have at, Myron J. Francis is owned by us. That's another sidewalk that is in tough shape up there. Not only could we do that, we got the same cracking issues throughout all our parking lots. We see our parking lots, well, I see them being in the industry. They are basically crumbling like our roads on a year-by-year basis.
Can I just update you on where we are with all of that so people understand? So we are eligible on July 1st to apply for safety and security money. Our plan would be to put some of those projects into that letter to get approval to do those, because those come with reimbursement. If we do this work and we don't have approval from RIDE, we don't get reimbursed at the 48, 47%. So we're doing stage 2. That's one avenue to complete some of these repairs. And we're also going to discuss the possibility of asking for the safety money, which is reimbursable. Otherwise, we pay full price and we get no RIDE reimbursement, which doesn't make the money go as far. So, we understand we have a whole list of paving projects, sidewalk projects that are, we're looking at. The city went out to bid for a lot of that work, and their prices actually, because we had gotten some prices, their prices, because it was part of their big bid package, have come back better than the pricing that we got. So we are in the process of looking at all those projects. It's something we'd like to discuss at the facilities subcommittee meeting so we can rank order the projects that need to be done and then start to move forward on it. So I'm not disagreeing, but I think we need to spend our money wisely, and we need to make sure that we're getting reimbursed for the projects that we're going to do.
And I respectfully agree with what you're saying. The flip side of the coin is, at some point, when we have safety issues, to spend $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 to address some of these issues, do I think it's a waste of not get reimbursement? So in other words, at Myron J. Francis, for $3,000 to $4,000, we could fix some serious safety issues up there. Would we not get reimbursed the $1,500? Absolutely. Am I willing to say that we should invest $3,000 or $4,000 to fix sidewalk issues?
Right, or we can replace them. That's the other, that's what we're looking at. What are we going to prioritize for replacements, and then what are we going to repair? And those are all conversations we would like to have at the facilities subcommittee meeting. So do we spend the money to replace, or do we spend the money to just do a temporary fix? We have pricing. We have the letter that can go in on July 1st. We have stage 2 being submitted for all of those projects around the entire city. So that gives us the permission over 5 years to do those projects. It's also timing too on some of them.
We will always disagree on some issues with due respect.
But-
Like I said, if it was a commercial building and I was to say to the property owner or the leasing owners, can I meet out here with your insurance company and let's discuss this? Like if we take the trust out there are such things as an issue that has to be addressed relatively quick. I don't want to call it slash an emergency.
So let's go to the facilities subcommittee meeting and let's have these discussions, because these should be discussed there and then brought here for approval. That's the reason that we created that subcommittee, was to have these.
And I agree with you. I tried that last meeting, but without all the paperwork, we can't get nothing voted on. But I agree with
No,
you.
we can bring it here. Once we decide what we want to do, we can bring it here.
Oh, yeah,
But
no, I agree with you on that.
Thank you. Next item.
Consider a vote to approve award RFP EPSDIT.
Hey guys, how's it going? So this is the RFP for our content filtering platform that we had gotten approved for you guys to go out to bid for a couple months ago. It got a little delayed because I missed the submittal time for the last couple agendas. In your packet, you'll see the rubric that we provided to you to show the 3 submittals that we received and which one scored the highest is Linewise, it's called, as the company. It'll be about $178,000 over 3 years, or each year, I'm sorry, for 3 years. Total $178,000 for 3 years. Payment will be remitted over 3 years, so we'll pay it in increments over those 3. It's about $150,000 cheaper for a 3-year period than the platform we're currently on. You will notice as well when you're looking at the rubric that the other platforms are cheaper. As we were evaluating, Linewise was the most technically capable and the most reliable out of the 3 platforms. And so that's why it ended up scoring higher on that rubric, kind of regardless of the increased cost over the others.
Did anyone have any questions for Patrick?
I do, through the chair. I'm just wondering, how do you weigh technical versus cost aspect of that?
So a lot of it, especially with something like this that we need running on, student devices 24/7, 365, is reliability. And one of the things that Linewise scored higher than the other platforms on is references. They had a lot of local school departments that they work with who they've deployed this platform with. So we were able to speak with, our peers kind of in the area and have the conversations with them of, how are you guys liking the platform? How do your teachers like this platform? And so we're able to consider that, and, resoundingly reliability wise, Linewise was just so far above the others. They're all pretty similar kind of capability wise, kind of depending on how much time you have to build things out and kind of put time into them. But really the reliability is kind of the biggest thing with that.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the RFP.
Is there a second? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next item.
Consider a vote to award the RFP for electrical services.
I will entertain a motion.
I just have one quick question.
Go ahead.
Can you step up to the mic just for a quick second? Would we be able to do this in 2 phases? Did you run the underground service to the pad, which is there, and then once the building is up, or do you think we're going to do this all at one shot?
Either or, I would say. They just got to run out to the building and then stub into the building, so they could run it out.
All right.
And just kind
That's
of
what I'm saying,
leave it dead and then put the building and then tie in, or they could just wait till the building.
Like time restraints, like, I'd like to leave that up to you. Just bring that up to them if it gets approved tonight. If it works better in your schedule, give them the option. See if they got like off days, they can, sooner we can get it wrapped up. But we'll leave that, on your plate to say schedule wise. It might be great to get them in and do all the underground work, dead end it right at the edge of the building.
Yeah, ideally in
The
the
building's
summer.
up to go in it. Yeah, just so with time restraint, so whatever happens, we'll be a little bit ahead of that. That'd be excellent.
Yep.
Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to award the electrical RFP.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next item.
Consider a vote to approve RFP for steel frame building installation.
I will entertain a motion.
Sorry, Danny, I apologize, Danny, but just so we could follow up what the difference from when we had went out with the pad, Danny, we got what, 1 or 2 responses back.
The pad, I think we had.
I'm saying to put the building up, man, we got like 5 or 6 responses.
Yeah, one was like a total package.
Yes.
that might be resubmitted.
Okay,
If
yeah.
we put this out. Otherwise,
And then we had the one from the other company that did the pad.
I think total we only had one installation.
All right, so this is gonna be just strictly to put that metal building up
Just put it up.
on that there, and, in the RFP, are we gonna have any time frame for them to do it if it gets approved? Well, it'll get approved.
It would be summer.
During the summer, so it won't roll into next school year, nothing like that.
No, it would be strictly
Do
summer.
we have the building in our possession yet?
Yep, it's in the parking lot.
Okay, excellent. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Well, I don't know if you'll be able to answer it, but I was wondering if we've considered using like, I know there's services out there like BidNet or something like that. Okay. I see
That's
shaking his head.
That's what we use. Yeah.
Thank you, Danny. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next item.
Consider a vote to approve proposed certified employee A resignation.
I will entertain a motion to approve. Is
I'll make the motion.
there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next item.
Consider a vote to approve resolution in support of the craft bill SO 113.
I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Through the chair, can we discuss for a second?
Sure.
Thank you. I just want to thank Dr. Fran and the mayor for going on Thursday, and Senate President Lawson, Senate Lauria, and Senator Brito for bringing it up at the Senate. Dr. Fran did a great job Thursday evening speaking on our behalf, as she usually does, and so did the mayor. So I just want to give them some kudos going up there and fighting for us. You know, us fighting is what we're supposed to do for this, and I just want to give them kudos. It was, we really, this is our time. If this is going to go through, this is our time for it to go through. The House, Matt Dawson brought it up in the House, and our old school committee chair, Jenny Furtado, went as well for our benefit. So again, we have a lot of people really fighting for this for us. So I just wanted to, thank you guys. So I'll make a motion.
Is there a second? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next item.
Consider a vote to approve certified staff layoff.
I will entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I will second that.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
The ayes have it. Thank you. Next item.
Announcements.
Through the chair. So on Saturday, I had the fabulous time of going to the Unified Championship game, which we played against. I knew I was going to forget it. Okay, well, the team that beat us. And it was an amazing time, but I do want to thank. We had Beth Studley and new teacher of the year, Amy Moran, stepped up on Saturday because the other coaches could not be there. So I just want to say, in a time when you need people, man, they were there. Those kids played their hearts out. See the beautiful trophies, little awards they got. They got second place, but I do want to give kudos to Coach Dana and Coach Cootie for the amazing job that they have done with our unified teams and our basketball team, and they had a wonderful, wonderful time. So I encourage anybody who has not gone to one of these games. Basketball's over for the year, but to attend. It was phenomenal. I will give a shout out to Mr. Black for being there as well.
Does anyone else have any other announcements? All right, hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Good night, everyone.